Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy Brandon back with another video, and today we're going to be doing a informational, kind of a hands-on video on how to clean the carburetor on your push mower. And today, what I got is I believe it's a 2004 Yardman push mower. It's got a 6.5 horsepower Briggs Stratton on it. This is a mulching push mower, so it's got no side chute or anything like that. But I recently bought a brand new carburetor for it, and it kind of doesn't want to work right. So I already tore the carburetor apart, but this is brand new. I just bought it. I think it was, I don't remember, his Amazon or eBay. It's brand new. Everything was good inside. It's only been ran a couple times, but the issue I was having with it was that when, let's say this is on the side, right by where your carburetor is and mounts to it and all that, what happened was that when you press the primer, nothing would happen. And some people said, oh, you can just double up the gaskets on there, and that really hasn't done me much good. So what I was thinking is it probably needs cleaned out or rebuilt or something, because it's definitely not working. Now, just for your notice, a lot of people have said that buying Chinese carburetors have always been a big issue. I believe that's what my issue was. It's not just because it's Chinese. I've seen and bought other Chinese carburetors in the US, and I've had no problems. But mainly people have problems with these Chinese carburetors, and we're going to go ahead and get to that real quick. One of the things we want to look for is cleaning the jets and making sure the regular outside perimeter part of the carburetor itself, like in the fuel bowl area, which is actually spotless right now because it's brand new. So right now we're going to go ahead and get to it. So first off, what we want to do is, let me get my camera, flip back. What we need to do now is we're going to find this thing right here. This is what holds your carburetor together, at least the bottom of it. What it does, usually it has little jets in there. Jets are like the little holes and stuff you might see. My camera can focus. You can kind of see through that little hole there, and a lot of times they'll have a hole on the end of that bolt looking thing, and this usually comes with a gasket, something small, a little bit like that. And inside your carburetor, besides this holding the bowl and stuff up, you have your float, which is either plastic or brass depending on your engine and how old it is. And then we have, and there you can kind of see that little tiny metal rod. That's basically to slide on. It keeps your float and stuff all hooked on there. It goes through the little hole right in there, that little tab pieces. And then you have your needle and the seat, which is on that one on the side there, that little jet in there. And once that needle and seat wears out, you start to have carburetor issues and whatnot. But there's many things that could be wrong. What I'm thinking is wrong is there's something with the jets or something in this part of the carburetor that is not letting stuff flow right. Depending on your carburetor, you'll have different jets, and you can kind of see there's one below that bolt hole, and there's two on the inside part of the intake. And there's some Welsh plugs which is in there, which is about right there in the center of the camera right there. There's a Welsh plug in there. There's jets underneath that. I don't have a rebuild kit as of today, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to spray some right in that little pit right in there, and we're going to spray out the rest of the jets and see if we can actually get this thing working. This thing does run. I'd have to spray some carburetor cleaner or something in the intake for it to fire up and run. So that's that, and we're going to go ahead and get to it. I'm not being paid to do this or sponsored in any means, but today we're going to be using some AutoZone carb cleaner. I would use B12 Chem Tool, but I kind of ran out, and that stuff seems to be gumming up things. So we're going to go ahead and try this AutoZone cheapo carb cleaner out. I'm almost out of it, so I need to go run town and get some more. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. Also, when you're doing projects like this and you're using harsh chemicals like carburetor cleaner or brake cleaner or any kind of thing like that, It is recommended that you actually use like some sort of rubber glove. There's some special ones for that, not like the regular blue latex ones that can actually be eaten up pretty quick. But anyways, yeah, get yourself some safety gloves, not usually rubberized. Those usually help a lot to keep all the harsh solvents and stuff off your skin. As for me right now, I don't have any, sadly. Especially that carb cleaner is really aggressive. So we're just going to go ahead and do it. So if you see me not wearing face protection or rubberized hand gloves and stuff, consider that for future reference, because you don't want to get like certain things in your bloodstream or get certain kind of cancer. But I'm not working with something super harsh like sulfuric acid, which is found in carburetors, so we don't do any of that without gloves on. So let's just go ahead and get to it. I always tend to shake my products a little bit up so that way the carb cleaners and stuff always gets into the mix up and you get the best results. Kind of spray through the jets a little bit so that way you know that they're clear. I have my camera kind of in a weird position, so I can't really see what I'm doing too well over the camera, but I'll try my best to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here. So make sure that's cleared up. Oh boy, I'm getting some on my face there. That is why you keep a rag or something around, so if you get any on you, you can quickly wipe it off. Probably not the best rag to use because I kind of put gasoline on that earlier, but alright. If your jets or whatever are blocked up, especially on this piece, which is very important, what I usually use is a piece of wire, and I'm going to go ahead and get that real quick. Usually like something like galvanized wire. I would not recommend using rusty wire like this, so if it is rusty, I just usually clean it off. But what I would use is either use like galvanized wire, or they have some wire kits and stuff for carburetor cleaning and stuff like that in specific sizes, and that usually works okay as well. A lot of professional mechanics use that. Now, as you can see, is that this side jets and stuff, these are all good. As you can see, it's coming out the other end perfectly. Now, wire is a little bit white because I was using spray paint on that earlier, trying to get all my paint cans to work, but works just fine. The one thing I'm having trouble with, I'm not sure about, is that centerpiece right there, because it seems like there's nothing going through in it. So I'm not sure if that's going to be a problem. I'm going to look under the light real quick. I want to see what's going on. Now, I did just look at it under the lights and stuff, and if you look really close, I don't think you guys can see on camera, but there is a very, very tiny jet in there, and how I was able to tell that is because I could blow on it. And there's air coming out the other end. So, that's how I knew that there was something there open. So, let me go ahead and set that on the ground again. Pretty sure you guys can't see that very well. Let me tilt my camera. Let's just go ahead and leave it at that. And my jet's right here, and we're gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna make sure these side jets are pointing away from me, so that way I don't really get any up on me or anything. I'm gonna put my face back because that thing does spray up. Okay, you can kind of see it both ways, so we know that that jet is clear. We're good to go with that one. Now, some people like to wipe it down, and you know what, might as well, just to make sure we don't get anything on it. So usually just wipe it down real good. Make sure there's no buildup. Usually the color is white, depending on what you use for fuel. White or varnish or anything like that can really gum up your carburetor quick. Set that to the side. It's a good idea to take your float and kind of, depending on what kind of crap you got on, either like sand it down lightly with like a 100, 200 grit sandpaper, depending. But on plastic ones, I wouldn't do that. I would just spray it down a little bit. Maybe put some on the rag, and then just wipe it down. Make sure you're using a clean rag for this kind of stuff, or a basically clean rag, because this stuff can get messy, and you want the best results, because any kind of little bit of dirt, if that gets in your engine, that's bad luck. Luckily, this is a fairly new carburetor, so we already have pretty clean parts, but it never hurts to at least wipe it down. gaskets. I try to keep these away from solvents or anything because rubber tends, or rubber or plastic nylon tends to expand when it hits the solvent or anything like that. And then you have carburetor leaks, and that's not fun to deal with because then you have to buy a rebuild kit, or if you have a spare gasket around here, you're lucky. What I talked about earlier was the needle and the little rod and stuff. The rods are usually okay. I usually try to clean those off a little bit, but since this is literally a brand new carburetor, not going to worry about it. The needle and stuff, you want to be careful. That point is there for a reason. Looks like we have just a little bit of wear and tear on it. So I'm going to go ahead and find a clean spot of the rag and just briefly kind of wipe it down on the tip a little bit, since it's not really that dirty. Now, there was a little bit of a mark in there earlier, right on the tip, but not too bad. So, the tip looks good. It's not like rounded off or anything. Looks like the carburetor bowl has a little bit of crap in it. I'm getting a little bit there. You can kind of see those black dots and stuff. That's buildup. Or it can be usually on equipment. You want to get that stuff out of there. So I usually just take a rag and some carb cleaner or whatever you're using and wipe it out really good. Now, I don't think some of this is coming out very well, which is not good. But it's not as bad as most of the carburetor bowls I've seen. I rebuilt a carburetor recently, and it was probably the worst carburetor I've ever rebuilt. It had buildup completely on the inside. I had to use a screwdriver and files and 50 grit sandpaper just to get the crap out. That took me a good 2 hours to do. Usually a carburetor cleanup or rebuild should only take like 15 minutes to half an hour, which is what this video is going to be like. So we've already went over the needles, rods and stuff, gaskets, and pretty much we're ready to go on the main unit. You can do the main unit first, it doesn't really matter, but I just usually like to get the little stuff out of the way. Kind of spray her down a little bit. Try not to get in your face because that's dangerous, and that is why they say use masks, safety goggles, and that kind of stuff, which I don't have on me right now. So I'm just going to point it away when I'm doing it, or else it might backsplash. Okay, that's just clear because you can see on that side one, right? I'm going to point with it right there. I was using that jet, and I can see it's coming out the main intake, so that's good. We're going to go ahead and do the center one. Alright, that goes into there somewhere. Alright, that one's cleared up. So basically, while I'm taking this, it's a fairly clean carburetor. Now, this is outstandingly good for a carburetor. Sometimes you can shake the juice out of it. I was expecting this to either be halfway apart on the inside, because I've had people say that their carburetors came half disassembled on the inside and they've had to do all sorts of stuff there, but we're a little bit more fortunate this time. Some people like to spray the outside of their carburetors, which I guess we can go ahead and do a little bit, but it doesn't really do too much. Just keeps the dirt from going back in it. Now we have like carburetor cleaner all over the shop floor now, so let's just go ahead and put it on a rag, kind of dry off the tips and stuff. Now what we're going to try to do, now I should mention this real quick. On the side of that center post thing there, sometimes there is a jet there and you have to make sure those are clean as well. In this case, we don't have one in this Quantum Series Briggs. So what we're going to do now, we have our carburetor completely cleaned out. We're going to go ahead and start reassembling it. So basically what we want to do is we want to take our float and figure out where our needle is. Now on this one, the needle doesn't have to have the wire keeper in it. So we're just going to go ahead, slide it into our float just like that, so it's hanging on there. And we're going to put the float needle right into its spot, rest it in there. Now, you're probably going to wonder how that keeps in there, and that's where this rod comes in. Usually you just push them in or out. So you're just going to line up the rod and the float and holes and all that. And we're just going to stick it in there. Oh. These can be a little tricky. But alright, there we go. Slides right in. Basically, it's just going to look like that. So if you're wondering how to get those little pins out, you basically just pull them out. Some people don't like to use their hands on them. I really don't mind because I've rebuilt several carburetors and it doesn't really affect it too much. Okay, now that we've got that in, take your float bowl and stuff. Make sure your gasket's free of any material. This one I was a little sketchy about because I saw a deform in there. So just going to go ahead and place that around the area where we want to put our bowl. Make sure that on the edges there where the gasket's going to seal, it is clean and smooth. If you have a completely round bowl just like this, it doesn't really matter how you rotate it and you put it on. Some of them have like a little indentation, like on Tecumseh motors. You might have one that's more shallow than the other side, and the shallow one goes towards where the pegs are for the mounting. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop this on there. Make sure it's sealed up all the way around, and we don't really have too much of a problem on this one. So if you're using these can be like orange or black or whatever, the gaskets. Just put that on your thing there. Make sure you don't clog up the jets when you do this. Screw it in there. If you want to know what size these bolt things are, they're usually a 13 millimeter. My experience, I've used that in the sockets and they work perfect. So, alright, now I gotta figure out where I put my 13 at. Usually a small socket works perfect, or small socket and ratchet, because these don't need a crap ton of torque just to be firm with the small one. And make sure you can't really move them back and forth really good at all, and we're good. So basically, that's how you do it. This isn't really a full rebuild. This is just to clean out. Usually people rebuild them when they clean them out, but I don't usually do that unless I have to. So now, let's move on to the assembly and putting things back on. Usually, when you put things back on and stuff, you get new gaskets and all that, which we already have gaskets, and this is actually a fairly new one too. So, some people actually ask, or I've actually asked people on Facebook groups like Briggs Stratton Junkies, Briggs Stratton Performance and Fun. So if you ever check out those groups on Facebook, they've been pretty informational and they help a lot. I got a little bit of that, but okay. Oh yes, I put my carburetor parts over here. So I got a little bit of stuff from over the years and whatnot. I got a crap ton of 6.5 horse series air intake mounting carburetor gaskets. Here, this is a fairly nice example of a gasket that I tore off, and it's just all worn out, crusty, dirty, all that, and it's got stuff in it. You can see how the lip and stuff there has just gasket residue on the inside. That's going to cause your float bowls not to seal right. So there's that, and this also has the shallow end, like I was saying. But I got a few different things here now. Those bolt things with the jets, they can be in different places and they can look a ton different. And the different gaskets for those. But we're all good there. So, alright, we're just going to go ahead and try that double gasket setup, and we're going to be golden. So, for this, what we're going to do is make sure we already got one on there. So we're just gonna make sure that's free of like dirt and stuff. It's not really dirty at all, so we're gonna be good. Make sure this goes on the right way. Kind of press the little guide pin thingies into place, so that way this doesn't move on you. Now, the reason that we're doing a double gasket setup, usually it gets to be better of a seal so it doesn't leak. So we've got our thing here. We got our little governor rod back in here that we're looking for, and that's what's going to go on our carburetor. We have a little hole right about there. I actually broke the tab off that on the old carburetor that I had for this, and that was not a fun day. That means I have to buy parts, and I don't like buying parts. Depending on the part, I like breaking them. So usually, like I said earlier, you like to replace the gaskets and stuff on this every time you do a rebuild or what may have you. But in this case, this gasket was kind of falling apart and coming around and stuff like that. I'm just going to push that back into place and maybe just put it on backwards a little bit since it's not really different. And usually you don't do this because that could get dirt in your engine or whatnot. But this is just a machine that I know will run. I don't really care that it runs. I just want it to work because I got 5-6 other push mowers that I know will work for me in case if I need it. There's an O-ring that's on there that you put on because that goes on the back of your carburetor. That helps it seal up, or else you might have hard starting problems or you name it. Now, that's supposed to go right on there. Being a little bit stubborn with me here. Okay, so basically, once you get it kind of lined up in there, you want to go ahead and use your bolts and stuff, get those ready. These are, I believe, 10 millimeter-ish. I don't think these are exactly the size because usually I use standard. But I'm just going to go ahead and use 10 millimeter because we're not going to put too much torque on them. Make sure your ratchet's going the right way. And we're going to go ahead and pop these in there. Make sure that they go ahead and get in the right holes and you don't cross thread these. Usually when you cross thread a bolt, it's not fun to get back out. A lot of experienced mechanics hate it when that happens. I broke a bolt. It was a head bolt in a Briggs Stratton 5-horse flathead. And man, oh man, was that a fun day. Once you get your bolts in there, it might take a couple tries, depending. But, try to get this other one. Alright. My ratchet does not like to work too well on me. The slider keeps slipping. Alright, so you want to put these in to where they're not exactly tight, but you just want to kind of firm because you don't want to really warp the metal or anything like that, especially on plastic or O-rings or stuff like that. You don't want to get them on crooked. So get them firm one at a time and slowly start adding pressure and whatnot to it when you're tightening it up. So I'm going to go ahead and get on there. Finish tightening there. You don't have to go too tight on these, but I usually just use like a 1/4-inch drive for that part. If it's like a head bolt or something, I usually go 3/8. Anything bigger than that, like automotive, 1/2-inch drive usually works. So that's on there pretty firm, not going anywhere. So next thing you can do, I already drained all the gas out of this machine, so it's kind of dripping. We're going to go ahead and put the line back on now. I didn't move that clamp there because it was a little bit of an oversized fuel line, and I didn't mind it, slid on perfectly. But that's good. It's on there firm. It's not really popping off. It's not really too much of a pain to get on and off, so we're good there. Now this is a little bit dirty, but right in the areas that we need it clean, they're good enough. So you're going to make that pops on. And another thing you want to look for is making sure it lines up with the carburetor. This piece right here is kind of blocking what you see, but those two jets that I showed earlier that are on the intake side, you want to make sure those are free of any blockage, and you want to make sure that once that is all lined up and centered perfectly, you can go ahead and screw your other pieces in. And these are 8mm pieces. Usually that works pretty good for putting this back on. So I'm going to go ahead and switch out my sockets. Some of you may use impact drivers or things like that, but I usually just tend to stick with a good old socket set because you don't really have to worry about clutches and stuff on your drills not working right or going too hard on that, because you break one of these, you have to buy new parts or send it to a machine shop somewhere. It's not that fun. So I've been doing repairs like this for I don't know how many years now, probably about 9. So yeah. Poor rabbits over there are suffocating from this carburetor cleaner smell. Alright. Now, make sure you got those on nice and firm. Plastic, you don't want to go too tight, just firm, because that's how you break things. Come on, get on there right. Just going to go back and forth a little bit until they're all firm and it's all staying on there. We're good to go. Now we just need our air filter assembly. Usually when you do services on, it's good to clean these out or replace them. This is actually fairly new. It's a little bit dirty though. It could use replaced, but this motor or this filter has barely even had 2 hours on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and slap it on. There's nothing really blocking it. Usually you can clean those pretty good and it'll last a while. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick that on. Use a regular screwdriver, flathead, or whatever that size is, probably like a 10 or a 3/8 or something, or whatever. Actually, no, that is an 8mm socket bolt. I usually just use a screwdriver for this, but since we got a 8mm on deck, why not? So that's all on there. So what we've done is that we've done clean out the carburetor and stuff. We've reassembled it, and we've actually put it back on the machine. Now we just need to put some gas in there, but we're not going to use that gas. We're going to use some fresh fuel over there and put that in, because you don't want to run stale gas through your systems, clog it up, or anything like that. Your engine won't run. So usually there's a distinct smell when you stay over there. Usually there's this different smell between good gas and bad. Good gas, you can obviously smell it when you're at the gas station filling up your car. And bad gas is like when you have a barn find and tear open the fuel cap on it, and it just reeks. This is one of those safe nozzles, so it doesn't open up on you when you tip it. So we don't want to put it in too full, just some in there to start us out with. So there's a little bit of gas in there, not very much. It's probably going to go all down to the carburetor, but it might be enough. Make sure you guys have enough ventilation when you're firing up equipment in an enclosed area. So here's what I like to do. Pop open the barn. There's my little painting booth grill right there. Don't ask why it's painted like that, but that's going to the scrap yard. It's a little Lawn Boy 6.5 Duraforce. But let's go ahead and take this out. I had it running earlier today before I cleaned it out. work? Wow, I am tickled. I am tickled. Very tickled. Oh, that thing actually started up first pull. I didn't even feel like it was priming. That is insane. Oh boy. Okay, maybe I was wrong about that, but hey, you can't really beat a working push mower. But yeah, so it's all back together, and it looks like it's working just fine. So we're just gonna go ahead and leave it at that, and until next time, guys,